You know the exact moment it happens. It's 4 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday. You're trying to fire off just one last email for work.
Oh, the classic witching hour.
Right. And suddenly your living room is just under a hostile takeover. The couch cushions are scattered everywhere. The dog is completely taken cover under the dining table.
Sounds about right.
And, your toddler is just eyeing the top of the bookshelf with this look of pure, unadulterated ambition.
Yeah, I mean, the physical boundaries of the house suddenly just feel entirely too small, right? For the sheer volume of kinetic energy bouncing around inside it.
Oh, absolutely.
The toddler's nervous system is essentially demanding movement, and, well, our modern homes simply aren't built for parkour.
You really aren't. And as a parent, you're left standing there doing this relentless calculus of risk. You watch them climb and think, like a fall from the armrest to the rug. Okay, they'll survive.
Right, minor bump.
But a leap from the coffee table to the TV stand, we're spending our entire evening in the emergency room.
Exactly. It's a constant negotiation.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. It is Tuesday, June 9, 2026. And since we know you are the kind of learner who loves getting past the surface level noise, to find those real aha moments, we have a really fascinating analysis for you today.
We really do.
We are looking at a parent safety guide from a company called Spring and Stitch, and it's focusing on this relatively new category of furniture trampoline ottomans.
Yeah, which is such an interesting concept.
It is, but right out of the gate, we run into a massive central conflict. Parents desperately want a safe indoor outlet for all that toddler energy. But the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, famously and loudly says no trampolines under age 6, period.
Yeah, and it is one of their most well-known, uncompromising guidelines. I mean, it is heavily backed by pediatric emergency room data.
Okay, let's unpack this because, on the surface, putting a trampoline right in the middle of your living room sounds like a direct violation of that medical advice.
It really does sound counterintuitive.
So our mission today is to explore the nuance between a backyard hazard and a living room rebounder. We're pulling out the surprising facts about the physics of jumping, the psychology of toddler development, and what is actually happening in their developing brains.
And before we can even discuss the mechanics of using a trampoline ottoman safely, we really have to look closely at the origin of that AAP rule.
Right, the blanket ban.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that the guidance specifically targets large outdoor trampolines. When you look at the ER data that actually drives those guidelines, the major injury mechanisms are high falls from several feet in the air and multi-user collisions on a massive, highly tensioned jumping mat.
But I can hear the skepticism from our listener right now, though. Like, if a pediatrician says no trampolines under age 6, isn't a trampoline still a trampoline, just smaller?
That's a logical leap everyone makes, yeah.
I mean, the bounce is the same, the mat is the same. How does simply shrinking the equipment change the medical advice?
Well, think of it like this. The danger of a large outdoor trampoline is like letting your kid run around on a busy highway.
Okay.
But the danger of a floor-level mini rebounder is more like letting them play in a strictly fenced-in driveway.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going.
Right. The fundamental danger of getting hurt isn't magically gone. I mean, they could still trip and scrape a knee in that driveway, but the environment completely changes the mechanics of the risk.
That makes a lot of sense.
On an outdoor trampoline, you have massive gravitational potential energy. A child is falling from, 6 or 8 feet in the air, but a mini rebounder sits just a few inches off the floor.
So the impact is entirely different.
Exactly. When you take away the height, you aren't dealing with highway speeds or falling from the sky anymore. The risk profile literally shifts from severe impact trauma to localized movement errors.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Wait, so the trampoline itself isn't what's usually injuring the toddler.
Right.
The leading cause of injury on these devices actually comes down to the physics of force transfer between two people.
Yes. And it's all about how a jumping mat actually functions. It acts as a shared spring. The number one cause of mini trampoline injuries is double bouncing.
The dreaded double bounce.
Exactly. When two kids bounce at the same time on a small surface, the larger child, say, an older sibling, drives a massive amount of kinetic energy down into the mat.
Because they're heavier and jumping harder.
Right. And the mat stretches, storing all that energy as elastic potential energy.
And energy doesn't just disappear. It looks for the path of least resistance to release itself.
Spot on. And that path is almost always the lighter, smaller child. All that stored energy travels directly into the toddler.
Oh, wow. So they just get launched.
They do. The toddler is propelled upward, totally off rhythm. Their brain and muscles are anticipating a downward landing, but the mat aggressively launches them back up instead.
That sounds terrifying for a little body.
It is. That neurological misfire, combined with the sheer external force, leads to awkward, uncontrolled landings. And because toddler bones are softer and still developing, that uncontrolled force is exactly what causes the classic green stick fractures you see in the ER.
That completely reframes the danger. I mean, the older sibling's kinetic energy is essentially being weaponized against the toddler through the mat.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Which brings us directly to the strict safety rules outlined in the Spring and Stitch Guide. So the absolute golden rule, Rule 1, one person at a time, no exceptions.
None at all.
Not for siblings holding hands, not for a quick 30-second burst, just one kid.
Because controlling that variable eliminates the shared spring dynamic entirely. You just remove the physics problem.
Right. And Rule 2 naturally follows that adult supervision is required for any child under age 6. A toddler simply cannot be left unattended with active access to a rebounder.
They just don't have the judgment for it.
Definitely not. Then Rules 3 and 4 deal with the immediate physical conditions of the jump. Specifically, keeping the mat entirely clear of toys that could become projectiles or ankle hazards.
Stepping on a toy block while jumping is, it's a disaster.
Oh, a nightmare.
Yeah.
And ensuring the child is either barefoot or wearing specialized grip socks so they don't slide on the fabric.
Yeah, traction is key there.
And then Rules 5 and 6 deal with the mechanics of the jump itself. No jumping off the side and absolutely no flips or inverted tricks.
Well, the math on an inverted trick just doesn't work on a mini trampoline anyway.
Really? How so?
To execute a flip, a human body requires a very specific amount of vertical height and horizontal clearance, to rotate and correct a bad landing.
Which they just don't have.
Right. A 36-inch circle simply does not offer the physical margin of error required to safely catch a shifting center of gravity.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But addressing these rules brings up a pretty practical reality. Most toddlers, especially around that 18 to 24-month mark when they actually develop the standing balance required for this, they cannot process a list of safety regulations.
Oh, definitely not.
You definitely can't sit a 2-year-old down and say, please review Section 4 regarding inverted maneuvers and spatial clearance.
No. Toddlers are entirely impulse-driven. They respond to physical environments, not verbal commands. So the rules must be enforced by structural setup.
Structural setup, meaning the room itself.
Exactly. If you want to enforce the one-at-a-time rule, you manipulate the environment so only one child is physically allowed in the room at a time during a bounce session.
So you remove the opportunity to break the rule before it even happens.
Precisely. You just manage the space.
So structurally enforcing one at a time solves the kinetic energy transfer problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings us to the next point of failure, which is the room itself.
Right.
Because even if they aren't falling from 6 feet in the air, the kinetic force of a bouncing toddler means a sideways fall onto a hardwood floor is still a major hazard.
It really is. And the guide relies heavily on environmental engineering here, starting with clearance. There is a strict 3-foot horizontal clearance rule on all sides of the ottoman.
3 feet, okay.
Yes, that means physically relocating coffee tables, breakables, and hard-edged furniture completely away from the bounce zone. And vertical space is equally critical. You need a minimum of 6.5 feet from the floor to the ceiling.
The guide also emphasizes visual cleanliness in that vertical space, which, it seems like a small detail, but makes a huge difference.
Oh, it's massive. A dangling pendant light or a tall, fascinating piece of decor near the bounce zone is just an invitation for disaster.
Because they'll reach for it.
Exactly. If a toddler sees something shiny at the apex of their jump and reaches for it, their center of gravity immediately shifts sideways.
And down they go.
Yep. That midair shift is exactly what causes them to miss the mat entirely on the way down.
Wow. And the flooring underneath the ottoman requires just as much engineering, apparently. If you're placing this on a rug, the guide insists on a non-slip pad underneath the rug itself.
That is non-negotiable.
Because a toddler on a rug without a non-slip pad is essentially riding a skateboard over your hardwood floor.
Yeah, it's basically surfing.
The lateral force generated by active bouncing just turns the entire rug into a moving vehicle.
Which is incredibly dangerous because the child instantly loses their stable base of support. But even with a perfectly engineered room, The sheer force of a toddler's jump means the hardware itself becomes the next variable to manage.
Okay, let's look at that hardware. Because if you're a parent shopping for one of these, the initial instinct is usually to buy the biggest size possible,
Oh,
right?
totally. It's the buy shoes a size up mentality.
Exactly. You might look at a 44 or 48-inch model and think, oh, they'll grow into it, we'll get more years out of it. But the guide explicitly steers parents away from that.
They do, and for good reason. In the specific context of toddler trampolines, smaller is actually much safer.
That feels backwards, but why?
The guide recommends a 36-inch diameter model, like the Hopper from Spring and Stitch, for two main structural reasons. First, a smaller jumping surface utilizes a tighter tension gradient.
Meaning the bounce is different.
Right, the bungees or springs are firmest at the edges and have the most give directly in the center. This naturally guides the toddler's bounce back toward the middle.
Oh, so it physically funnels them to the center.
Exactly. They physically don't have the room to travel too far toward the dangerous outer edge.
That's brilliant. And the second reason ties back to keeping the older kids off it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. A 36-inch model has a lower visual profile and a much lower weight rating. It physically looks like it only fits one small person, which makes it far less appealing for, say, an 8-year-old to try and hijack.
The physical design of the object literally communicates its intended use, acting as a natural deterrent against those multi-user collisions we talked about.
Which is exactly what you want when you can't be in the room hovering every single second.
Right. Now, when you look at the shopping checklist provided in the source, it moves past the size of the mat and gets really deep into the actual materials. I mean, it feels very much like inspecting the safety ratings on a new car.
It really does.
You need padded edge covers to prevent a foot from slipping through the suspension gap. You need a non-slip base, a commercial-grade sturdy frame.
The frame quality is absolutely vital because of that repetitive kinetic force we mentioned earlier. A cheap frame will suffer from metal fatigue over time.
It just bends.
Yes. The constant downward stress causes the metal to warp inward. And when a frame warps even slightly, it fundamentally changes the tension of the jumping mat.
Which throws off that tension gradient you mentioned.
Exactly, creating an uneven, unpredictable, and ultimately dangerous bouncing surface.
Wow. The guide also specifically flags chemical safety, requiring CertiPure US foam and Okiotech certified fabrics.
And those certifications are essential when you consider how a toddler actually uses this furniture. Okototex means the fabric is independently tested against a list of over 1,000 harmful substances.
Why is that so crucial for a trampoline, though?
Because the friction of bouncing on a mat creates tiny microabrasions on a toddler's skin. It actually opens their pores, making them highly susceptible to chemical absorption.
I had no idea about that. That's wild.
It's a huge deal. And similarly, the CertiPure US certification ensures the interior foam isn't off-gassing formaldehyde or toxic flame retardants directly into the face of a heavily breathing child.
Right, because they're getting a serious cardio workout on this.
Oh, absolutely.
At a removable, washable cover to handle the inevitable biological reality of toddlers.
The spills and sticky fingers.
Exactly. And you have a fully engineered piece of gear. But if you're listening to this while staring at your living room, you are probably thinking, this sounds like an absolute logistical nightmare.
Oh, for sure. Clearances, non-slip pads, tension gradients.
Right. Like, why would I voluntarily bring this hazard into my house?
Well, this raises an important question, which is the ultimate question of managed risk. If you're going to go through all the effort of structurally changing your living room, the developmental payoff for the child has to justify the presence of the hazard.
And the way this specific piece of furniture justifies its presence is through a brilliant piece of psychological design.
Yeah.
The, quote, forgotten Ottoman top.
Yes, I love this part.
The guide notes that the cushioned top of the Ottoman is not designed for impact loads. If a kid jumps on a lid, it can slip, so the top must be completely removed during play. But forcing the parent to remove the top creates an incredibly powerful visual signal for the toddler.
It does. In behavioral psychology, we look at the affordances of an object, how its physical properties tell a user what to do with it.
Okay, affordances.
Right. So top on means it's a solid piece of furniture. It affords sitting or resting. Top off means the bouncy mat is exposed. It affords jumping.
So it's black and white for them.
Exactly. After just a few days, toddlers naturally respect this visual boundary because it is concrete. It isn't some vague verbal rule they have to hold in their working memory. It is a physical state of the object.
It's like flipping a switch in their brain. Top on, no jumping. Top off, go wild.
Yep.
But getting to the core of the issue, Why do they need to bounce at all? We've talked about burning off energy, but there's something deeper happening neurologically, isn't there?
There really is. And this brings up the hidden mechanics of a toddler's nervous system. The core physiological benefit of a rebounder is a delivery of intense proprioceptive input.
Proprioceptive input, what exactly is that?
Proprioception relies on receptors located in our joints, muscles, and ligaments. These receptors constantly send signals to the brain to map where the body is in space.
So it's how you can, like, close your eyes and still know exactly where your arm is.
Precisely. When a toddler is having a meltdown or literally climbing the walls, it is often because their nervous system is either overstimulated by their environment or understimulated and craving deep sensory feedback.
So they climb to get that feedback.
Yes. Bouncing provides what occupational therapists call heavy work. Every time they land on that mat, the compressive force pushes their joints together. This floods the brain with highly organizing proprioceptive input, which literally physically downregulates their nervous system, increases their ability to focus, and helps them process emotional regulation.
Wow.
In occupational therapy, a rebounder is considered a total workhorse tool for exactly this reason.
So what does this all mean? It means a regulated bouncing outlet in your home is not just a toy to keep them busy. It is an actual developmental tool.
It really is.
We go back to that 4 p.m. living room scenario we painted at the start. The energy that drives a toddler to scale a bookshelf isn't malicious disobedience. It is a biological demand for sensory input.
They're just seeking what their body needs.
Exactly. And as a parent, you are constantly weighing the carefully managed risk of an engineered ottoman with its structural rules and 3-foot clearances against the completely unmanaged, chaotic risk of a toddler treating your television stand like a jungle gym.
Because the energy is going to be expressed, period.
Right.
The choice is simply whether it happens safely on a properly tensioned, floor-level rebounder or unsafely on a hard coffee table the exact moment you turn your back to check an email.
You are building a safe container for a deeply natural physical impulse. To bring all of this together, the major takeaway from the Spring and Stitch Safety Guide is that different does not mean automatically safe.
Very true.
A trampoline ottoman is a serious piece of equipment. But by respecting the physics of force transfer and enforcing the golden one-at-a-time rule, you remove the biggest cause of injury.
Yep, the double bounce.
And by engineering your living room to respect spatial clearances, selecting a smaller 36-inch model to center the bounce, and relying on that visual cue of the removable top, you can unlock massive neurological benefits for a growing child.
It requires upfront effort to establish the boundaries, sure, but the framework makes it entirely possible to integrate this safely into a home environment.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought to chew on today. The source material makes it abundantly clear that a child's energy will always find an outlet.
Always.
Think about how much of modern parenting is spent serving as a physical police officer. Constantly saying no to a child's natural impulses. No running, no climbing, stop jumping on the couch.
It's exhausting for everyone.
It really is. But if we deliberately engineer our homes to include designated yes spaces for intense physical regulation, like a trampoline ottoman, how might that fundamentally change the atmosphere of the house?
That's a great question.
We know it lowers the child's daily stress levels by meeting their sensory needs. But think about how shifting from a role of constant restriction to a role of guided expression might transform your own daily experience of parenting them.
It's a total paradigm shift.
It is. So the next time the 4 p.m. witching hour hits and you see that toddler eyeing the bookshelf, maybe the solution isn't shouting another no. Maybe it's just taking the top off the ottoman.